Welcome back to Streamline Entertainment. It is Marvin speaking. I was going to do something on Jehovah's Witnesses. Someone did say, could you do something on them some months ago? And I'm just having another time, obviously, due to the cases that we were looking at. So my experience is, where I was basically born in Wales with the family, then moved up to London when I was 10. So I can remember my mum having like Bible studies when we were like 8, 9, but it wasn't regular. It's just like when she had time because she worked and stuff like that. And then we would go into their Jehovah's Witness hall sometimes. And because, like I said, a couple of my aunties used to go and they were quite dedicated, to be honest with you. But like I said, we were kids and we didn't really know what was going on. And then suddenly when we moved, that my mum took it way more seriously. It was like a fresh start, and she would go regular, have Bible studies, and go to the Bible studies on Thursday, and then you would have a sort of single Bible study with someone of the congregation. It could be a ministerial servant or an elder, or someone just quite have. She would have a personal study as well. Then Sundays, you would go to the hall. So I think the family dynamics of us changed a hell of a lot, where obviously this religion was very, very, very seriously. My older brother, he'd basically moved back with his dad and his dad's girlfriend because he technically didn't want to be one. And like I said, I think he was old enough then to, I think he left when he was, 17 or 18, old enough to make his own mind up. But he didn't really go anyway because he just wanted to live his own life. So it's only when so these Bible studies were starting on a regular basis, and it's only when I sort of started going to the hall, I realised how sort of serious it was, and it was organised, and they would basically have these talks and tell you about Armageddon, the end of the world, and how you're going to live forever. And like I said, the first couple of years, I was still young, so I didn't really take it seriously. And I think from about 12 to 15, I realised that technically my mum wanted me to be sort of the head of the household and become a ministerial servant and an elder as well, and also become baptized. So when you're baptized as a Jehovah's Witness, you are basically selling yourself to them. If you don't get baptized, then you can basically walk, and it's not so bad if you are baptized, should it say. So my three sisters got baptized, and my brother got baptized as well. As you know, but like I said, I wasn't going at that time, to be honest with you. When my brother got baptized, he left, I think, at 21, and I left at 16. But obviously that's a massive difference because, like I said, I think that had a sort of a proper teen life. And the weird things that were, I tell you where it was strange. It's like I said, it's like we could, me and my brother love football, so we could, like, at the end of the day, sort of mix sort of after school with our friends, but we had to be in a certain time. But but like I said, when it would come to about like 7, 8, 9 o'clock, where you're hanging with your mates outside, even though we used to be in the road and talking to neighbours, we had friends which are neighbours, and playing on skateboards and bikes and stuff like that. We were close to home, and obviously mum could call us in and stuff like that. But like hanging out at the shops was a bit of a no-no. So all my mates were saying, look, we're meeting such and such, one of the older boys have got a motorbike, or someone's got a nice car, and chill out at the shop eating chips and stuff like that. We couldn't do that, and that was sort of normal sort of things that I saw at the end of the day before we became a JW, which we wanted to do. You just wanted to hang out. You just wanted to learn life. If you get boys will be boys, should I say? At the end of the day, you've got to go through it, and sometimes see things bad and good in life to make you sort of develop into a man and go on the sort of straight and narrow. At the end, not everyone goes down that bad straight and narrow at the end of the day, but like I said, you could be somewhere just hanging out, maybe throwing stones at someone's window, and peeing someone off that's older than you. You know what youngsters are like. Do you know what I mean? But like I said, it's when you look at it now, you think, oh, that was really, really absolutely silly. Do you know what I mean? But like I said, you're childish then. You're still learning life at the end of the day. Because, like I said, sometimes I think people, do things out of boredom, but it's not right. So, going to the hall, I think this is where you start to actually integrate with other Jehovah's Witnesses that's been there a long time. But like I said, you've got to sort of basically sell yourself that you really, really want to be here. And I never really, really done that at the end of the day. I never really done that at the end of the day. And so it was quite intense. And then after a while, I think I got to maybe 11 or 12, where you then start having talks where you actually go up on the stage in front of maybe about 100 people and have talks talking about basically points of scriptures, the Bible, and different topics of conversation. And then they judge you on that. You're marked on that basically sort of homework that you've done. So you go up on the stage at the end of the day, so it's 100 people, and sometimes it was terrifying because, like I said, if you didn't really want to mess your words, so you went up with your notes at the end of the day, but like I said, you still want to sort of deliver it as much as you could. But I hated doing it. I really did. At the end of the day, so you get it, maybe a talk every sort of 2 to 3 months. At the end, I dreaded it when it come around and going on that stage at the end of the day, because I knew I just didn't want to be there. So I remember, and then you, from about I think 12 onwards, we'd go out into the field where you're banging on people's doors and asking them do they want Bible studies and talking the Bible to them at the end of the day. And I hated doing it because, like I said, it was in my own area, and I knew that a lot of people would friends would know me were asking what I'm doing, why we were dressed in a shirt and tie, and why we had magazines in our hand, and why we was carrying a Bible and a satchel and stuff like that. It was embarrassing. And sometimes we used to get back from basically a Bible meeting, and I used to see some of my friends get on street corners as we were coming back home, and they used to say, "Why are you dressed up on the suit on the stuff?" And me and my brother, we used to say, "Oh, I'll tell you later." You know what I mean? And we were embarrassed to sort of get in and just take our suits off straight away and just put some on. It was mad. And then I think one of the things I learned, I started working basically in the bakery on a Saturday and 15. And when it was holiday, I used to go in and I used to be invited a lot of places. And it used to be of an evening. And I used to have to say, look, I can't go. Do you know what I mean? And they'd go bowling, they'd go to football matches. They would go to events, basically, but they would, put in a real effort. There must have been about like 40 or 50 people working, a lot of youngsters working there as well. And it got to the point, Marvin doesn't like going out with us at the end of the day. He's a little bit different. Because it was like 40 or 50 times you let them down, and sometimes I'd say I'd come, but I knew that I couldn't attend, and I was 15 at the time, and I thought, I've got to get out. I can't keep doing this at the end of the day. So we got to 16, and I said to my mum, I don't want to be a Jehovah's Witness. I ain't going anymore. And I think it absolutely destroyed her, because, like I said, she wanted me to be a ministerial servant or an elder or someone of status in that congregation. But I just wanted to be, in my mind, I just wanted to live a normal teenage boy's life. I didn't want to go to church at that time, even though I'm very spiritual now, but I don't go to church. But like I said, there's stuff I believe in which is quite strong. But like I said, I think they are deceptive. I do think they prey a lot on one parent families. I do think they prey on vulnerable people as well. I do think they scaremonger people in that the end of the world is coming and stuff. And like I said, it is a experience, but it doesn't equip you. It doesn't equip you for the outside world. And this is why I think a lot of people who come out to go into drugs, get depressed, end up in prison, and then they're just going mad because they never had that sort of they never really had that sort of life as a teenager growing into an adult. It wasn't normal for them. So when they have this like freedom, I can do what they want, they're going mad. So technically, they're celebrating their teens in their 20s and 30s, which is just absolutely bizarre at the end of the day. But like I said, I'm going to move on to sort of part two and make a few more points on this. If anyone wants to hear any more, then let me know, because I don't know how, like I said, this video is going to go, but someone did say to sort of put it out there, sort of my experience on it. But like I said, I've done a sort of a part two on this as well. But let me know if you want to hear any more. If you don't, people, then we'll leave it alone. Thank you very much indeed. Move on to part two now. What I didn't realise, what I do now as an adult, is that, you know, this religion is definitely an occult, and it's a man-made religion as well. But it tries to stop you from living your own life, traveling, meeting people, doing normal things, basically making mistakes. Because a lot of people, what I found was a lot of people who did come out the truth, a lot of them went into drugs because they didn't do it while they were young, or had seriously drinking problems, depression, because they weren't leading a normal life. And I think I got out at the right time, because, like I said, the people that I was good friends with, I was going to school with, we all went out together, met. We'd go to clubs with their parents and hang out like normally at the end of the day. So I don't think I'd missed out on too much. And plus, the thing is as well, I didn't really take it seriously as sort of my sister and brother at that time. I didn't think it was worth it. So when I stopped, there was a lot of pressure from my sister's boyfriends, who basically who they went on to marry, who are elders and ministerial servants and stuff. But oh, Marv, you've got to come back. Armageddon's coming, and so this Armageddon is, they believe, it's the end of the world, which will technically terminate all of the you know, the people that are non-Jehovah's Witnesses and that don't believe in God's word. This is what they say, but they're scaremongering you, because, like I said, this is not going to happen. This is not going to happen. It was supposed to happen in 1914, and then they give a date before that and a date after that, and it just goes on and on. But like I said, there's so many questions that they don't really sort of answer you. So you're living on a paradise earth where there's no war. You'd have to sort of, you know, there's sort of a meeting point, basically, you know, on high ground up a mountain somewhere, where when Armageddon comes, they would they would all go up to this meeting point at the end of the day, and then basically technically then God will sort of cleanse the earth, killing all the wicked people. But my question is who can decide? How can God decide and who's wicked and who's not, even though you're not a Jehovah's Witness? Because there are many, many wonderful people I've met in my life, through work, through travel, just in general conversation, which have been with me a lifetime. And yet, at the end of the day, if you're not a Jehovah's Witness, you can't move these people, which is really, really bizarre. And I thought, I can't keep lying to myself. I can't keep running away from people that I like, people that I love, my friends. And they're thinking, God, this guy's a bit of a weirdo, do you know what I mean? Because, like I said, I'd say, yeah, I'd come. And like I said, I'd let them down about like 20 times, say over a couple of months where they've organised stuff. Because I was a part of even though I was just working the Saturday and the odd holiday day, I was still part of a team. I was wanted. And luckily enough, I knew that obviously my relationship with my mum wasn't great, and I needed to sort of basically sort of get out and get my own place. But the funny thing is, I did actually meet my baby mother quite early on in my life, and her family were completely different to mine. So they would, you know, take basically my baby mother down. We'd go down to clubs. We, into pubs. Obviously, weren't allowed to drink at that time or have a shandy or something like that. But their life was completely the other way. We were allowed to sort of stay out. So what it is, her mum and her mum's boyfriend was renting the house at a time. And so basically, I technically spent a lot of time there, even though I was still coming and going and still paying my mum rent at the time. And then eventually, I think I got to about like 17 and a half and moved out fully. But technically, I was never really at home. So I think I got kind of lucky. But like I said, I know there were people that come out much later than me, boys around about my age, young lads that come out later than me, and had really struggled, went into depression, went into drinking. Some of them went into heavy drugs, and some of them are dead. It is a really, really strange, because I just think it's an occult which controls what you do. For instance, I knew someone that had basically sex out of marriage. It happens. At the end of the day, you can't judge people for it. It's what it is, as long as they bring that kid up, okay? And they were banished to the back of the congregation for a year, 18 months, where nobody talked to them. So, and obviously she had this small baby, but nobody could actually talk to her in the congregation for about a year, 18 months. So she went through the whole process of sitting in the back of the congregation, nobody saying a word for her, only technically the family talking to her. It was really, really, really strange. And they've got their own sort of court. So if anyone's basically been doing something, or seen in a nightclub, or seen in a pub, or seen drinking too much, it may take another JW to actually report them. And then you're technically court-martialed, where an elder or a ministerial servant have to talk to you and technically tell you off, or technically strip you of some of the responsibilities that you would be given. So it's more or less being in a prison with our prison. I remember basically sitting there at 15, and everything was coming to light that my mum wants me to be the head of this congregation and stuff. And it was just weird. It really, really was weird. The more you went, the more you would actually get involved. But like I said, when I left, it was like a breath of fresh air, because I could do what I want. I could go out. I could mix with my friend. I could see what the world was really about. I traveled a lot. I've got a lot of friends. I've got a lot of people. But like I said, once you leave it behind, that's the best thing you can do. But like I said, I think there's a lot of people who got into their 20s, 30s, and 40s and 50s and couldn't leave it. And some of them are hermits. They suffer greatly from depression, because like I said, my brother left when he was 21. He left when he was 21, and he said that he had a lot of problems, because like I said, he was still catching up on his teens. Do you know what I mean? Which is quite bizarre, because like I said, because you were sort of starved of having a teenage life. People who come out of it in their 20s are doing it all over again. But I had the correct experience of doing it, coming out at 16 and sort of living a normal life. Whereas there were people who come out in their 20s, 30s, and 40s and really actually go crazy, because like I said, they didn't really have a life, as grown up as a teenager, because that was forbidden. It's really, really, really bizarre. And yeah, it was strange. Like I said, I think the court martialing was weird. At the end of it, the whole setup was very, very strange. It's to stop you from moving forward, stop you from getting a career that you would love, as long as you were basically there. They want to say, look, this is your organization, this is your family, and this is what you do. But they try to dominate, dictate, which is a terrible, terrible thing. So I can honestly say I'm glad that I didn't dedicate myself to that religion, to be honest, because it's absolutely BS. Let me know, people, if you want to hear any more. I'll try and get some basically people on here who's, or if anyone can recommend someone who's got their own experiences of it at the end of the day, because, like I said, it isn't a cult. I will do a part two on it in what I actually think the religion's about, to be honest with you, and it's not good at all. And obviously, there are many things that have gone on in this organization which was never basically sort of reported to the police at all, and they like to keep things in house. Let me know your thoughts, people. That was sort of my experience, and like I said, I was only really technically in it seriously, I would say, for about like when I say seriously, I say 12 to 15, where it started to get like really intense, and whereas they try to get you sort of baptized. So once you're baptized, you've basically have dedicated yourself to the religion. If you do anything bad, you could be banished from that religion as a bad person. So they want you to commit, but I was never basically going to commit to something that I actually didn't believe in. So if anyone's got any thoughts of Jehovah's Witnesses, or basically Bible studies, or them knocking on your door, please let me know. But that was my experience. But someone did ask me to discuss this topic of conversation. But I will do another part, but I will just base that on basically the religion itself. But that's my experience at the end of the day. But like I said, it just seems so long ago now. I'm in my 40s now, but like I said, it just seemed so long ago that I was there, and you forget so much. You forget so much, but those early years, I won't forget at the end of the day, because, like I said, it was really strange, especially like knocking on people's door with a book, or your friend's door, or someone you know. Very strange. Let me know what you think, people. Don't forget to subscribe to Streamlight Entertainment and follow the channel. Thank you very much indeed. Cheers.